Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be diving in to the new holiday palettes that were just launched from Hourglass. I ordered them yesterday and I did pay for overnight shipping and they arrived today, which I was really impressed that they shipped them out so fast. And I'm just excited to have them. I've been playing with them all day, trying each of the palettes on, and I have a lot of thoughts. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First up, we have the Deer palette, which is, I love the artistry. Like, throughout the years, I feel like the artistry has gotten better and better, and this year they are just really beautiful. This is the lighter palette of the three. So if you have fair to light skin, I feel like this would be a really good palette for you. This palette has 3 new shades and 3 existing shades. I pulled out all of my palettes from previous years, laid them all out, and like tracked each name to see which palette it came from. I feel like that information is important, especially in a review. So first we have Dreamlight, which is an existing shade. It's a finishing powder, and I was able to find it in the Dragon palette. Same location in the Dragon palette. This is the Dragon palette. The very first shade right here is also Dreamlight. So just FYI, it's the same shade. So if you have the Dragon palette and you loved that shade in there, just know that it's in this new one. Next up, we have Aura Light, which is a new shade. So they don't have it in any of their other palettes or in their existing permanent shades. Over here, we have the bronzer in this palette. This is called Diffused Bronze Light, and you can actually buy this in a full size. So it's one of their permanent shades. Then down here is the highlighter of the palette. This is called Iridescent Strobe Light. You can also buy this in the full size. This is also a permanent shade in their highlighters. Then we have the 2 new blushes. So this is called Radiant Peach and Radiant Peak. That is the Deer palette. Next up, we have the Swan palette. Now this is the one that I would say goes best for my complexion. I'm like a light, medium skin tone. So for those of you who are light, medium, even tan, I think tan would work for this palette as well. Now in this palette has 4 new shades and 2 existing shades. Now in this palette, there are only 1 finishing powder and 1 highlighter. The first shade here is the only finishing powder in the palette. This is called Dim Light. They have used Dim Light in multiple holiday palettes. You can also buy this in full size. It's a part of their permanent collection. Then we have Golden Hour, which is a new shade. It's one of their new highlighters. Then over here is the bronzer. This is called the Natural Bronze, and I found this in the Evil Eye palette. So this palette right here, this bronzer down here, this one is also natural bronze. Then here at the bottom are all 3 new shades. So you have Luminous Coral, Sunset Flush, and Mauve Fusion. So all 3 of these shades are new along with the highlighter. Then finally we have the Fox palette. The Fox palette is the darker of the 3 palettes. So this is definitely for those who have tan to a darker complexion. This palette actually has the most new shades. So this has 5 new shades and 1 existing. So first we have Solar Glow, which is the highlighter in the palette. This is a brand new highlighter shade. Then we have Lucid Glow, and I knew that that was an existing shade, but it took me a minute to find it. I searched high and low. Then I was like, okay, so it's not in my 6-pan palettes. Where is it? I pulled out the Ghost Quad, and there it was, right here. This one is called Lucid Glow. So this Ghost Quad is years old. Like, I don't even know what year this was launched. I'd have to find it, research it, and if I do, I'll put it here on the screen because I can't remember off the top of my head what year this was launched. But that was the reason why I couldn't find it, is because I was looking for it in like these 6 pans. So anyway, then over here we have the finishing powder in the palette. This is called Desert Light. Then these 2 here are the blush shades. So we have Canyon Heat and Amethyst Haze. And then over here on the end is the bronzer in the palette, and that is called Bronze Fusion. Hourglass is also launching a 4th palette, Sephora exclusive palette being launched. This 4th palette is called the Horse palette, but all of the shades in the Horse palette are existing shades. It is on the Sephora website right now. It just says coming soon. I don't have an official date when this palette will be available, but I did go through those shades in the Horse palette, and I'll be honest with you, the Horse palette, the actual art of it is beautiful. I think it's my favorite of all of these palettes, just because I personally love horses, and I love that they chose the white horse with the black backdrop and those red roses and stuff. Just a gorgeous artistry palette. But I wanted to go through those shades and let you know they've just pretty much kind of grabbed shades from all their different holiday palettes. And I went through them, and I'm going to tell you guys which shade is what. First up, we have Soft Light, and Soft Light you will find in the Evil Eye palette. It's this one right here. So if you have the Evil Eye, it's the first shade in the palette. Then we have Mood Exposure, which is a blush shade. That shade is in the Leopard palette. It is this shade right here. This is Mood Exposure in the Leopard palette. Then the third shade, which is a highlighter, it is called Supernatural Strobe Light. It took me a minute to find that shade because it's not in any of these artistry palettes. It's in this palette. So I don't know which year this was launched. It's been a while. This is called the Ambient Lighting Edit Universe palette, and it's this shade right here, which is a really beautiful shade, by the way. So next up we have Iridescent Coral, which was very easy for me to find because I know that shade very well. I use it all the time. My personal favorite like holiday palette from all these years has been the Elephant palette. This shade right here is the Iridescent Coral, and this is the shade I use most frequently when I pick up one of these holiday palettes. I love to grab the Elephant palette and love to grab this blush shade. So with that said, that shade has been one of my favorite shades from the previous holiday palettes. Then we have Iridescent Rose, and the Iridescent Rose is in the Tiger palette. And that is the 6th shade over here. So this is the Tiger palette. It's this shade right here on the end. Then finally, the bronzer in this palette is called Glistening Bronze Light. Again, I struggled trying to find that shade. I was like, where is it? Well, they grabbed it from this palette. So they took 2 shades from this Ambient Lighting Edit Universal palette. This is the shade right here. So again, this is the Glistening Bronze Light, which will be in the new Horse palette. So, I mean, it seems like people are kind of upset about that palette. I don't really necessarily think it's that big of a deal. The holiday launch is the 3 that we have that we're talking about today. The Horse palette is kind of just a exclusive palette they decided to create with Sephora. And I kind of think that would be a great palette to give away for Christmas or something. I think it would be a perfect palette to gift this holiday season. I could see myself buying it for my daughter or my son's girlfriend or my sister-in-law for Christmas because it is a gorgeous palette. So I'm okay with them doing that. I really am. That's just my take on it. So let's go ahead and jump into the review. When I review these palettes, I like to use all the shades and apply all the shades so you can see them. So yes, I wiped off my makeup 3 times to film this video, which is totally fine. My skin's probably not very happy with me, but that's okay. And I have a little mark right here that just kind of came to life. I gotta go after it tonight. I'm not sure what happened there, but anyway, so I'm gonna try each of these palettes on, try on all the shades, put them all on, and then once we get through the application, we're gonna jump into the swatches, and I'm gonna swatch and compare these 3 palettes next to all the other palettes that we have from previous years so that you guys can see how these shades compare, and then I will go ahead and jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So just for those of you that are curious of what's on my eye, I am wearing the Hourglass, the new curated palettes. So this one is the Minimalist, and these are all matte shades. And I like the palette. I don't think it's worth the money, to be completely honest with you. I have a lot of really good like matte palettes that are solid mattes that are more affordable and pretty much the same quality. So I like this, but I don't know that it's worth the money, just FYI. And for those that are curious about what's on my lips, I am wearing the Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheat Contour Duo in the shade Medium. And then for the lipstick, I'm wearing the shade Bare Nectar that I created with Christian Audette. I love this shade. It's one of my favorite shades of all time. So I'm going to start with the Swan palette because this is the medium palette and my skin is kind of a light medium to medium situation. I bought all three of them for the review, but if I was going to purchase one palette for me personally, this would be the palette that I would choose. And let's start with the finishing powder, and I'm going to put the finishing powder kind of like right along here. By the way, this is the BK Beauty 110 brush, and I'm just going to kind of press this into the under eye. So right away you can tell a difference. So like this kind of took that shine away. So you can see the shine that I have here. That kind of just completely removed the shine. I'm going to start with the bronzer over here on this side. So I'm going to tap into this bronzer. By the way, I'm using the BK Beauty 111 brush. It's not, for me anyway, it's not really a warm bronzer. I mean, you can kind of tell in the palette that it's more of like a chocolatey color, like a chocolatey base. It's not dark as chocolate, right? But it has a chocolatey base where it's not super warm. I would say this is more of like a neutral. Whoa, I just got way too heavy-handed. Okay. So now that I got really heavy-handed with it, let's see how hard or easy that is to blend out. So I'm just going to take a powder brush that has I haven't put any new powder. It just has powder like residue on it because it's, I used it yesterday with powder. And I felt very comfortable doing that because Hourglass powders are very easy to work with. They're very easy to kind of diffuse and calm down if you need to. They're meant to kind of apply that way. And I do really like the shade of this, especially for those that don't really like a warm bronzer. If you're looking for something that is more of a neutral base, I think you'll really love this bronzer because in my opinion, in previous years in the medium palettes, majority of the time, the bronzer has always been a little warmer. So I think for those of you that have wanted more of a cooler tone, I think you'll really enjoy this bronzer because it's really pretty. As far as blushes go, there are 3 blushes in this palette. So I'm going to kind of mix things up a little bit. I'm going to put this plum shade like right here and kind of tap it and blend it into the bronzer. See what this looks like. We're going to kind of see right here, I have some texture, and obviously anything you put over is going to emphasize it. That is a very, very pigmented blush. Like I dipped into that with the smallest amount on my brush, tapped off. It's very, very pigmented, but it's really pretty. It kind of has a berry undertone for me on my complexion. I'm going to go into this coral shade. I wiped the brush off, by the way. And I'm just going to bring that coral shade kind of like right here. Gosh, I didn't realize those marks on my face. And they're like all in line with each other. Do you see that? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like a half moon. I never noticed it until I put makeup on it. So I'm going to wipe that brush off pretty good here on the back of a towel. And I'm going to go into this orange one, like the middle one. I'm just going to put it like right here without anything, just so we can see what it looks like. Okay, so that middle shade is much lighter, meaning that it doesn't apply so aggressively, right? Where you can get a little bit more heavy-handed with it and kind of play around with it and apply it kind of slowly and build your way, which I kind of prefer that in a blush because I can totally get way too heavy-handed with blushes. And if I'm using one that's too pigmented, I get carried away and then I have to like buff it out and try to find a way to kind of remove what I've done. So I kind of prefer one that's a little bit more buildable and a little bit less pigmented, but I know right now everybody's into the very, very, very pigmented, like bright blushes. So if you're into that, you will really love the 2 shades I put onto this one. And I will also say that middle shade would be a beautiful blush topper. You could put either one of these shades down and then put this over top, because this has a little bit more of a sheen. Like you can see the sparkle that it gave the skin versus over here. I mean, I do have a sparkle over here, don't get me wrong. These blushes have their own sparkle, but I feel like the shade in the middle has a little bit more of a shimmery look, and it's really flattering on the skin. Okay, so now I'm gonna add a little bit of bronzer right here on this side of the face. Kind of work that in. I love this bronzer, you guys. This bronzer is stunning. Like, yeah, I think this is probably one of my favorite bronzers from them, to be completely honest with you. It's really beautiful. This is probably one of my favorite bronzer shades from Hourglass that I've tried. My only complaint is that it's too close to this shade. Now it's too close to the purple. And so you have to be careful not to pick up that purple blush because it's so pigmented. At least you have over here where you can kind of put your brush over this way instead of, you know, grabbing it from there, because it's very, very pigmented blush on that side. I'm going to add a little bit of this coral color right here. You can see how pigmented that blush is. Very pigmented. I'm going to take a little bit of my setting powder from Hourglass, which is my favorite. This is the translucent setting powder. I'm just going to like buff all of this in together, as Mel would always call this. I know that she didn't make up the technique, but that's how I learned the technique, was from Mel. She would always talk about buffing all of it together, and she's absolutely right. Buffing it all together just makes it more, like, you don't have the harsh lines. It kind of like marries them all together in a very, very soft way. Let's go ahead and put on some of the highlighter right here in the middle, and it's very pigmented. I'm gonna tap off, and let's put that on. Ooh. Woo! Now that really emphasized my half moon of zits. Those are those ones that like sit under the skin. They never get red, so they never come. But as soon as you put makeup on, you're like, wait, I guess I can feel it, but I didn't realize, I don't know. I didn't realize it was there until I put makeup on. They snuck up on me. Typically, the way I like to apply highlighter is once I've applied it, I will go into a finishing powder. So I would grab like this shade right here, tap off, and then kind of use that finishing powder to kind of buff it into the skin, just to make it look a little bit more natural. So it's not just like the stripe of highlight, you know? And I feel like it just melts it, kind of marries it a little better. So this is the final look using the Swan palette. I think these shades are really beautiful. I would just be very careful with those blushes because they're extremely pigmented. For those of you that may think these blushes are a little too strong, but you like them, like you think they're really beautiful and you want to apply them, but they're a little too much for you, my recommendation would be to take your brush, go down into the pigment, tap off the brush, and then also come onto the back of your hand, kind of wipe off the extra that's sitting on top of the bristles, then work it in. And you can build it that way versus going straight from the palette straight to the face. That way you have way more control, but you still get to use and love these 2 more pigmented blushes. That would be my advice. But overall, all of the tones, very beautiful. So I am back. I went ahead and wiped off all my base makeup, reapplied foundation, a little bit of concealer, fixed the brows because I messed up. Let's go ahead and get into the next palette. We're going to go ahead and grab the Deer palette. So this palette has the 2 finishing powders, the bronzer, the highlighter, and 2 blushes. I'm going to grab the BK Beauty 110 brush, and I'm going to go into, I'm really curious about this shade right here. I'm really curious what this will look like in this area. So that is a really beautiful finishing powder. Kind of gives you a tiny bit of highlight to the skin, but like in a very, very soft way. I'm going to wipe the brush off and I'm going to go into the first one right here. And I'm gonna put that on the other side. That one for me kind of gives a brightening effect. I'm gonna dip my index finger into the first shade, my middle finger into the second shade. There we go. So this is the first shade, this is the middle shade. The back of my nails are dirty, but I feel like the first shade has more of a shine. You can see the way that it's kind of highlighting off of the light, but in a really, really beautiful way. Both of them are really pretty powders, but look at the shine that that gave the under eye. Let's go into the bronzer. I'm gonna use the BK Beauty 111. Being careful not to pick up the blush. And let's apply it. Okay, so for me personally, if you're my complexion, this bronzer works, but you have to apply a lot more. Let's put on the blush on that side. I'm gonna grab this pink one right here and put it here on this side. Okay, so these are much softer on the face as far as just, they're not super pigmented, where you have control and you can kind of build it and apply it. It's just much softer on the skin. I'm gonna wipe the brush off. Okay, so let's go into the middle shade. It's more pigmented than the pink one, but it's still really soft and kind of easy to apply. And that could be because I'm more medium skin toned. Those of you that have a lighter complexion, these might be stronger on you than they are on me, right? Like I'm having to build the formula up a little bit, and that could be just based on my skin tone. And on me, those two shades don't look that different. There's a little bit of a difference in tone, but they do look very similar. I think if I went out and about, I don't know that people would look at me and say, she has different shades of blush. Now, again, that could be because it's my complexion. It might be different on a lighter complexion. So kind of keeping that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to go into the bronzer and build that up on this side. I just have to really grab it to get it to pop up. Let's go into the highlighter, which is right here. And it seems like it's more of like a pinky base. This is the Iridescent Strobe Light, which I have used before. And let's pop that on the high points of the face and the nose. I always like doing the Cupid's bow and the nose. It's just my thing. Okay. And that highlighter, I would say, is not as strong as the one in the Swan palette. The highlighter in the Swan palette, I felt like I had to go over it with a finishing powder just to kind of like melt it into the skin. But with this one, I don't feel like I really necessarily need to do that. It's a really beautiful highlighter. So this is the final look using the Deer palette. Again, I'm gonna go off camera, wipe all of this off. And when we come back, we will get into the final palette, which is the Fox. I've wiped all my makeup off, reapplied, and we are ready to dive in to the final palette, which is the Fox palette. I'm gonna go in very light-handed with these shades, be really careful kind of the way I apply it because they are technically too dark for my complexion. So like I mentioned, this is a highlighter, blush, finishing powder, blush, and bronzer. The finishing powder is definitely not going to work for me. It's going to be a little too dark. However, it's really beautiful. And I kind of feel like if I picked a little bit of it up with this bronzer, it would be really pretty. But I'm going to try it just grabbing the bronzer alone. And I'm going to dip into it. And you can kind of see it has a little bit of like a reddish undertone. Because it is darker, I'm going to kind of tap it on the back of my hand and then go in. Okay, so it's not too dark. Oh, well, yeah, I should have probably just stayed with what I was doing, but tapping it on the back of my hand. We're gonna work this in, but you can see how beautiful the powders are. Like I mentioned when I was using the Swan palette, if you go in too heavy-handed, these are the powders that are gonna give you leeway. These are the powders that are gonna be forgiving. when you're heavy-handed. I was pretty light-handed with it. I did tap a bunch of it off on the back of my hand. I'm able to make this work. I think if you are a darker complexion, I think this is going to be a very buildable bronzer where you can kind of put it on and build it to the level that you're seeking. As far as blush goes, I want to grab this shade and see what this looks like. Okay, so that's a beautiful blush, but it's not, I would say for me personally, if you have a deeper complexion, I would use this as more of like a topper. It doesn't have a lot of base to it as far as tone goes. It does give that iridescence to the skin. So I really think this would be beautiful as like a really beautiful kind of finishing topper to these darker shades. I'm gonna wipe the brush off and I'm gonna grab this shade right here. I'm gonna tap off and let's go on, see what I mean? Like that shade has some color, right? Like it's colorful. Yes, that shade has some color to it. And I just feel like that other shade would be really beautiful over top of it. I mean, I guess why not? Let's just do it. So I'm gonna pick up this middle shade right here. And it just gives a little bit of that shine. Okay, I'm gonna wipe the brush off and I'm gonna go in to this purpley shade right here. Ooh, pigment. This shade, I just have a feeling is gonna be so gorgeous on darker complexions. I mean, that shade is stunning. Even though orangey, coppery colors go beautiful on a darker complexion, this purpley color is going to be stunning. Like I can already see it. Like it's going to be a really beautiful shade. I mean, that highlighter is just beautiful. So I'm going to put a little bit of the highlighter on right here. I don't know. That is just cracks me up how many. I got to get in there and get those out. But look at that, so beautiful. Let's put a little bit of the bronzer up on this side and kind of marry it into that blush. This is the final look using the Fox palette, and we're gonna go ahead and jump into the swatches and comparisons. I'm going to go through and swatch each of these palettes next to other palettes that I have from previous years, just so that you guys can see the tones and the blushes and how they compare, especially if you're like a collector like me. Sometimes these palettes can be a little bit redundant, so it's important to kind of see how they compare to the previous years. Once we get through those, we'll go ahead and jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. I have been filming for a very long time. It is 9 p.m. here at my house. I've been filming for a very, very long time. Okay, so editing Tara here. Yesterday was a really long day of filming and wiping off all the makeup and stuff, so I didn't have time to do the swatches. So today, while I'm editing this, I'm doing the swatches, and I wanted to pop on here and talk about the Fox palette. As I was applying it, yes, I was being careful with the way that I was applying the shades, but I still had a feeling that these shades in here were just not dark enough, especially the bronzer. And as I've been swatching it next to some of the darker palettes from the previous years, it's apparent to me that this Fox palette is lighter than what we've had in the past. So if you have a darker complexion, with watch reviews or applications of those who have a complexion that's close to yours, so that you can see if this palette will work for you before you spend the nearly $100 to buy it. I'm disappointed in some of the shades, especially when you compare them to the previous years. Like, you've seen those swatches, they're lighter. So I just wanted to pop on here really quick and let you guys know, for those that may be interested in buying the Fox palette, make sure that those shades will be good for your complexion and show up, and you'll get some depth from the bronzer, because it's just, it's too light in my opinion. I just wanted to jump on here and share those thoughts with you guys. Let's go ahead and jump back into my final thoughts. First off, I want to preface this entire segment by saying, if you have some of these palettes from previous years, don't feel pressured to buy these 3 new palettes. I feel like even though we are getting some new shades and stuff like that, I think if you have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 in your collection, that's pretty much all you really need of these. Like, I don't really see these as something you need to rush out and grab. Unless it just calls you and you want it and you want to splurge on it, you do you. But I don't want you to feel pressured into buying these, because I do feel like even though the shades are new, it's a little redundant. You're kind of getting the same look over and over and over. It might be a little bit different. There might be a little bit of a tweak in the blush, or the bronzer might be a little bit more red or cooler toned or whatever. But it's still, you're still kind of getting the same concept. You're getting the same look. So I feel like these Hourglass palettes are for those that just love them. Like, you like an all-in-one palette, it's travel friendly, and you've used the one that you've loved all year and you're ready to restock and buy a new one. I feel like those are the people these palettes serve the best, is just those that really use them and love them, and they're ready for a new, fresh set of shades so they can use it throughout the year and love it, right? That's just my opinion. But with that said, these are nice palettes. Even when I got heavy-handed with the bronzer and I got really sharp lines, I was able to blend and buff them out beautifully without little to no effort. Like, I didn't have to scramble through my foundation or, translucent setting powder and hurry and try to buff it. Like, these shades, Hourglass has really beautiful powders, and they blend beautifully on the skin. And so even if you do get a little heavy-handed or you get a sharp line or heavy line, you're able to buff it out fairly easy. We all know Hourglass powders are very user-friendly. They're just effortless to apply. And they always give the skin that iridescent look with a little bit of a glow to the skin. Sound off down below in the comments. How are you guys feeling about these palettes this year? Are you excited about them? Or are you kind of like, yeah, they're pretty, but I don't need them? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. So definitely sound off down below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.